Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge, the almighty dollar, and thank you for spending a few moments with me to go over the Zozo Championship, my top plays and fades. So let's get into this real quick. For folks that might have missed the first look show, just give you a little background on the course and the event. First off, very similar to what we just had at the CJ Cup at Shadow Creek. We don't have a lot of history here. It is a par 72, just over 7,000 yards, and a very unique thing about this course is it has 5 par 5s. I've not heard that they're going to turn one of those into a par 4 and make it a par 71, so we are going to go under the assumption of everything that we know that there will be 5 par 5s and it will be playing as a par 72. You got bent grass fairways, you got a hybrid green with bent grass and Poana. And for everything that I could glean, I kind of went through a hole walkthrough, the best that you could view, and I'll put the link so you can see it too. But it looks a lot like Shadow Creek, but it looks like wider fairways. I don't think the rough is going to be as penal. If you watched a lot of the tournament or any of the tournament, there was a lot of times the guys are having a hard time finding their ball, re-teeing, multiple people digging on their hands and knees. Trying to find balls that were plugging or just hide in the rough. So I think this course is going to set up for just, I mean, if you look at some past, so the past history that we do have would be the Hero Challenge or the World Challenge hosted by Tiger, 13 years, played at Sherwood Country Club. Again, that's where this is at in California. But it wasn't a PGA event. It was I think they called it a money event. There was no shot link data. The field was, less than a third. It was like an 18-man field, I think almost handpicked by Tiger, invites. And, the kind of the scores would range between 1,800 to 10 under. So I think it's going to be more scoring than that. I think it's going to be 20 under and over. I think bombers are going to feast on this course. And, of course, whoever gets hot with the putter, hence Jason Kokrak. DJ does have the course record back in 2014 of a 61, but we have no DJ this week due to COVID. So I think that's a pretty good background on this event. So quickly, I ran some models still, even knowing that, we didn't have a lot of shot link data, but what I did do is a couple things. One was looking at similar courses, so using the comp course, and then be able to do analysis of what will be important still from a shot category, and things that I could see that were very important. All followed under. You can see all the different listings, but if I work my way backwards, like the par threes, the majority of the par threes are either 175 to 200 or 200 to 225. So longer par threes. Again, with the par fives, we want guys that do well at par five scoring, that can get eagles. Of course, the typical approach off the tee, fairways gained, putting. I think bogey avoidance is going to be big because, again, I think the scoring is going to come in. So kind of weighing all those categories, and then looked at the last 36 rounds, and you're going to see that, some of the folks, the players that are listed on the left are going to have different amounts. So long story short, if you look at bent greens, put these filters on, less than 7,200, and I think easy to hit fairways. I also think there's, the little bit of trees that they do have is nothing like what we saw at Shadow Creek. Also, I think it's, if you do get a little off track, you also don't have where each hole is kind of its separate world, where, if guys bombed it way off track, you weren't able to go on the other, fairway or go on the other, kind of side of the rough. You were pretty much gone. You were, in an issue, and you don't have that here at Sherwood. Even though people say, well, it's Sherwood and it's, cut in the middle of the forest and this, it's, again, for everything that I could see visually, it wasn't that penal if you went off track. So again, going with that knowledge. And then all we're looking at is correlation between these different models that I ran. So, I highlighted some guys that popped up. Paul Casey, funny enough, I kind of wanted to get off Paul, but for some odd reason, he keeps popping up, and I kind of did some back history. And I'm also looking at two main courses on the California swing, or the West Coast swing would be Pebble Beach, correlates from a distance perspective. And then also the Genesis, which is a longer course, but is a West Coast course and part of the West Coast swing. So kind of looking at past history of that too. Tony should be in the field. He's right now listed as going to be in the field. I think he's going to do well here. I think a lot of people are going to jump off Wolf, and I think that's a mistake. I looked at some past analysis where Wolf missed a cut and then what he did when he came back. Again, I think, every golfer can have a bad week. I think also, maybe a little burned out. Maybe he went and hit the strip in Vegas. Who knows what related to him shooting so poorly. But we are getting a nice price discount comparative to last week. And I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to jump on and see. Then Adam Scott popped up quite a bit. We'll look at the next one. So I ran it because it is a hybrid. I ran pretty much the same thing with Poa, and then you get Pebble Beach, Spyglass, Silverado, and then the guys that popped up again, notably Scott again, Casey. I like Cameron Champ this week. It is a 4-day event. And so also what I'm looking at is guys that can produce points, even if they're not going to get way up in their standings. So if you looked at Jordan Spieth, who we'll talk a little bit about, I think he ended up 85 points, but from a standings perspective was quite a bit downer. Now, a bit of that happened on Sunday, but he typically does produce a lot of birdies, gets the eagles, and of course produces the bogeys, hence. But from a point perspective, I think he's someone that we have to look at. It's a little different mindset, right? You have a field of 78, no cut, and we need guys that can score even if they can't, win the tournament or get top 10s. And so that's a part of the analysis I also did. Kind of moving along. So I also just at best performers on a par 72, less than 7,200 yards. So if you take off the type of green, you get a little different mix. And DJ just popped all over this, but DJ is not in the field this week. So it's too bad. I would have liked, the model screaming DJ, 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 but not an option. So we're going to look at the other guys. So again, as I kind of mentioned, Casey pops up again. And, I'm hoping that Casey kind of just had a bad Thursday and then just kind of checked out and that he readjusted. Again, he has a good past history playing at the Genesis, AT&T. So the West Coast swing sits him pretty good. Yeah, so some of the same guys keep popping. Rahm starts to show up here. So when we look at just par 5 scoring, that's again what we're going to look at with 5 par 5s. We need distance. We need guys that can make birdies and eagles. So you get these guys popping up. And then if you just pull up on that note, the most eagles past 36 rounds. So this is kind of removing comp courses. This is just purely looking pretty much since the restart, who's had the most eagles on the past 36 rounds. And, Mackenzie Hughes, funny enough, is second, which, again, this is just looking at eagles. And then what I wanted, so on the note of talking about guys that you get 4 days of scoring, I wanted to see from the guys that were below 8K, so this is 7,900 and down, who gets, from a point perspective, who gets the most points. And so I pulled up, if you kind of just take, DraftKings points, you look at birdies, eagles, and then also versus don't want to hit the bogey side from double and a single bogey, who kind of stuck out from in that range. And so, Brendan Todd, not a shocker. He's just pretty steady. He's number 1 actually out of this whole field to not have double bogeys from an eagle perspective. Mackenzie Hughes. And you get Kevin Kisner from a birdie perspective that popped up pretty high in the model. So, but Mackenzie Hughes and Adam Scott actually were the top 2 point getters over the past 36 rounds under 8K. So just good to note. And then I did this last week. I didn't do it as in-depth as I did last week, but I did want to kind of just look at the top echelon, 10K and up, in a no-cut event, put them head-to-head. Where do we sit? So there's 2 guys at 11K this week in DraftKings, and you got Rahm versus Schauffele. Rahm wins 30-20. So these guys played in the WGCs, the Century of tournaments, Tournament of Champions, any no-cut event. When they're both in the field, who typically comes out ahead? And so Rahm wins that one. At the 10K range, DJ's out, but you still got, I think 4 guys. So Justin Thomas versus Rory, and Rory comes out ahead. Now, if you throw in Terrell Hatton, who got bumped up due to his current status, You know, I don't know. And again, this is only the events that they've both been at the same time, but I don't think Terrell Hatton's played. Of course, as you see, 34 events total and no cut. But Justin Thomas comes out ahead. Put him against Rory. Rory comes out ahead. And then, of course, the two out of that, you put Rory against Rahm. And what was amazing is they actually, as you see, come dead even in no-cut events. Both would get 20. And then if you look at tournaments, I think Rahm was ahead by 1. So the next thing that you could look at is by round, who comes ahead. And Rahm actually came out ahead. But these two, it's a coin toss. And so on that note, I actually ended up playing them. It will be both of my in the top 5 studs. So with that said, there's Rahm. I think Rahm's going to be a good play this week. I think, he had a great Thursday and then kind of just struggled with the putter, which I think just affected everything. He was, he's one of the most accurate drivers of the ball in length, him and Rory off the tee. And so, he kind of struggled there. But I'm looking for a comeback. And again, that was his first tournament back since the U.S. Open. Same thing with Rory. He actually led the field at the CJ Cup off the tee, gaining over 6 strokes, but struggled on approach, which, is not like Rory. Usually if he's going to lose some strokes, it's going to be on the putter. So I'm looking for him to have a comeback. We haven't seen Finau. He was supposed to play, I believe, even at Shriners, I believe is when the positive COVID test popped. And it was too bad. I was pulling for him to play at the Shriners, but he will be in the field this week. And I think, he might have a little rust to kick off, but the hope is Finau can do what he does. And then Webb Simpson, I'm a big Webb kind of advocate. I mean, the guy, I think he's like one of the most underrated top professionals we have. But if you look at Webb's history, when it gets into these shorter courses, it's just ridiculous where he ends up. And then on par 5 scoring, Eagles, the guy doesn't bomb it compared to these other guys, but he hits it long enough to where he sets up for the ability to get for Eagle chances, and then just overall game, and the putter is ridiculous. So I like Webb. I'm going to be playing. And then Patricio Reed, Captain America, I'm putting in there. He, again, was popping all over the model. But also, we haven't seen him since the U.S. Open, but the guy scores, and we're going to get 4 days of Patrick Reed scoring. So, where if you gave, I would say a little advantage maybe to Rahm and Rory, as in, got to play last week, where the other 3 guys have not. But again, I'm looking a little bit from a leverage perspective right now. From an ownership perspective, Justin Thomas is already 25% ownership. So everybody's kind of putting him in, and then everybody else is kind of, there's nothing else that gleamed out. Again, I'm recording this Tuesday around 2:00 Eastern, and I'll go into more ownership projections on my tomorrow podcast, and kind of the hidden gems and stuff. I'll pop that up tomorrow. But right now, this is my top 5 of my core bills I'm going to be going with. From a mid-range perspective, I'm sticking with Bubba. For the price, I think there's, he is getting a little more in price, but the guys, tee to green just been lighting it up. If he gets a hot putter, man, he can win one of these things. So I'm still liking Bubba. Paul Casey, I think I even talked about in my first Slick show. I just so confused, and I kind of mentioned a little bit about it. I think he just had a bad Thursday, and it kind of just set the mood for the rest of the tournament. But everything shows that he should play well here. Paul tee to green is usually steady, but the putter is where, but has a strong history at the Genesis AT&T, so the West Coast swing, and also does like to putt on both surfaces. So I'm going to go with some Paul. And then Adam Scott, who's been a little, up and down, but again, he was just popping all over the model, and we haven't seen him. So he's a new ad since the U.S. Open, but for the price that we're getting him at, I like the leverage play there. And then Scotty Scheffler, kind of was the DFS or the DraftKings darling, has been kind of, I don't want to say a forgotten man, but you're just not hearing much about him. But I think this course sets up well for him, and he's been getting a little better since I believe he came to the Sanderson Farms, was his first tournament after the U.S. Open, and kind of struggled there in the beginning. But I'm going to have some Scheffler, and then yes, I'm putting in Matthew Wolff. I think it's a great time. So we are saving about $900. I think he was $10,000 last week. dropped down to 9,100. The guy literally went to high school 7 miles from the course. I'm guessing he has, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing he played it a bit. But, you know, getting back to some hometown feelings. And I think from a leverage play, I think a lot of people is going to be off Wolf, and I'm jumping back on. And also, if you look at when Wolf has missed a cut in the past, he's done pretty well coming back. So going to be playing some Wolf. And then Lanto, I believe, is coming in at 7,000. And my rule of thumb is be 7,000 or less. He always 10X's his value. And he proved that over and over, and proved it last week. Had a great week. So I'm going to stick with Lanto. Mackenzie Hughes struggled last week, but again, from a model perspective, you saw, and from what he can do from a scoring, and that putter gets ridiculous. You get 4 days. I'm going to stick for the price. I think it's great value. And then Cameron Champ, again, I'm going with the thought of length is going to help you here. Cameron Champ does one thing very well, and it's driving the ball very long, very accurate. And if it's, you know, wedge game and putter is just decent or neutral, he can be a great play. And Sebastian just keeps performing. You know, I kind of, my last builds, I was pairing up quite a bit with Lanto and Sebastian in the bottom to bring in the rear. I think it's solid plays. And then one play that I never typically ever make, and that is Jordan Spieth. But Jordan on the West Coast, and Jordan even showed last week that even if he doesn't finish well, he's still going to get you those fantasy points. And again, 85 points, I believe he finished somewhere around 35th place. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm going to put him in and hope that, you know, I'm not thinking he's going to have a, you know, even maybe a T20, but I think he can get me enough points. And for the price, I believe he's at 6,900, you know, below 7,000. I'm going to put him in for the points perspective. And then quickly on the fades, I faded Tyrrell Hatton last week, and I missed. But I think this week, I think this is the week I might eat some humble pie for this. But I am going to fade Tyrrell Hatton. I think he's going to be super chalky, even though I think ownership projections show that he was just a bit over 10%. But you know, so early, I think he's going to be, because when he gets streaky, he can stay hot. But I think something's going to hit with the travel. The letdown of how close he got last week, you know, the win at the BMW, everything just kind of telling me, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just take a, you know, it's not a hot take, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fade him. Kokrak, you know, he gained over 10 strokes putting last week. The guy knew the course well. You know, he has been in decent form, and I don't think it's a terrible fit for his game. Again, we were looking for length. I just think I'm always a guy that typically fades after the win. So his first win, think about it, first win on tour, and he was at Las Vegas, so I'm sure he partied pretty hard. I think, and it's gonna be a fade. And also, I looked at his past history at the Genesis and the AT&T at Pebble Beach, and it was, I think he had a missed cuts at the Genesis in 30s, so nothing stood out. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick with that. And then Tiger, you know, even though he won the Zozo last year, technically defending champion, his 82nd win, but different course. I think it's a little bit different Tiger. I think he's using this as, you know, a warm-up round. I mean, I think he feels like he has to play in it, being the past champion, but B, I think he's going to use it for a warm-up round. Not too far off like what Koepka did the last week, and pretty much will do this week. You can just see where guys will just practice. I think if he comes out and somehow has a good Thursday or Friday, you know, who knows? But I think I've been fading Tiger for a while, so I'm going to stick with it. And that's it. So I hope you got a good understanding of the approach that I'm taking, and that helps you build your lineups. If you like what you're getting here, please like, share, and subscribe. I will have another show tomorrow, release it sometime in the afternoon, and it will be more deeper dive into ownership projections, the hidden gems that I kind of uncover, and yeah, and it's a shorter show. So thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me, and all the best. Let's have a great Zozo championship. Thank you.